Do you guys like my new setup? I think it's fun. I still have this part to do over here, but that's fine. I've never been this excited to film something before, okay? I made a shirt. Welcome back to my channel. My name is phoenix.axel. If you did not know that, then you subscribe and hit the notification bell to get to know me better and you never miss a video, even though I never fucking post, but here we are. Over the years, I have made a ton of videos about bands and the general alternative scene without even knowing it. At the end of 2023, I picked up Where Are Your Boys Tonight by Payne, and it changed my life. This is like the best book that I have ever fucking read. It introduced me to so much new music and so many themes that I had never thought about in the alternative scene. Through this book, I found out about Cartel and then found out about Band in a Bubble. You guys are gonna have to deal with the fact that I'm reading my script, okay? I do apologize if I get anyone's name wrong. I'm just a boy, okay? Band in a Bubble aired in 2007 on MTV as a 24/7 live broadcast in which a band lived in a semi-glass enclosure for a short period of time to write and record a full-length record. The idea was actually originally developed in 1999 by Paul Curtis, a manager, tour promoter, or label owner based in Australia. After years of convincing and plotting, the first Band in a Bubble followed Australian band Regurgitator while they recorded their 2004 album Mishmash. On an AP article entitled 14 Facts About Cartel's self-titled and being the band in a bubble you probably didn't know, it's quoted that David Blaine was the nail in the coffin for Curtis to get Regurgitator to do Band in a Bubble.
Stuntman David Blaine spent 44 days in a box, and what did he come back with? Nothing! Couldn't do it. So Channel V's created a world first that's worth watching. Band in a Bubble. The band, Regurgitator. Can they stand the pressure when we lock them in? The Bubble.
Airing on Channel 5 Australia, the first bubble was in Federation Square, Melbourne. Regurgitator lived there for 3 weeks beginning August 31st, 2004. The big draw was that people could watch the band in multiple ways. In person by looking through the glass walls of their enclosure, by watching one of the screens in Federation Square, or a dedicated broadcast channel with a 24-hour stream. Half-hour highlights also aired on Channel 5 daily. After a 3-week stay, the band emerges to play a new record for the crowd. Band in a Bubble was so different for its time that plans for a US and European version were soon in talks, which is where Cartel comes in. If you don't know about Cartel, I can't understand why you would be here unless you're like, hey, I heard about this in this book and maybe I should But I would suggest listening to not only this record, but also Chroma is an incredible record. It's one that I immediately burn on CD to play in my car, which is something that happens very few and far between. But in 2007, Cartel had already released their top tier, okay, get it, top tier debut record, Chroma, and had seen commercial success with songs like Say Anything Else and Honestly. Multiple times in my research, I've seen that people were saying that they were going to be the next Fall Out Boy, which is very interesting to me because Fall Out Boy in 2007 was still coming up and had only just seen commercial success with their second record. It's confusing to me why someone would say that this is going to be the next Fall Out Boy when Fall Out Boy was still actively garnering more and more attention. Also as if 2007 wasn't the biggest year for Fall Out Boy that they had seen. To me, it would make more sense if they were comparing Cartel to a band that had succeeded in the 90s or in the 80s and not another up-and-coming band. I digress. When going to record Cartel's second album, they were approached by their management and were offered Band in a Bubble. Members of Cartel have detailed how Band in a Bubble was pitched to them, specifically that it was pitched like Real World and Road Rules. I know a little bit about Real World. I don't know anything about Road Rules. If anything, the only thing that comes to mind is that show that Curtis Connor was talking about where they get the bad drivers in Canada, but that's all I got. Sponsored by Dr. Pepper and airing on MTV, this version of Band in a Bubble looked incredibly different. The Regurgitator bubble was more spherical and looked interesting and slightly inviting, while the Dr. Pepper version literally looks like a fucking Coke machine screen. It's giving capitalism. Why are they sponsored by KFC? Okay, look at these two bubbles and tell me which one looks more inviting, okay? Which one looks more homely? Which one looks like the American version? This bubble took 6 months to build. 6 fucking months. It is ugly. It took 6 months to build, and in the first episode they mentioned how it is hurricane resistant, tornado resistant, wind resistant, water resistant, okay. It looks ugly though. The bubble resided on Pier 54 at Hudson River Park and had 23 webcams set up inside for the 23 different flavors of Dr. Pepper. What the fuck are we doing? MTV approached multiple bands before settling on Cartel. As noted in Where Are Your Boys Tonight, Jason Tate from AbsolutePunk.net notes that he knows it was presented to Motion City Soundtrack and Jack's Mannequin, and both of those bands turned it down. Like the previous Band in a Bubble, fans were able to watch online on websites like MTV and Dr. Pepper Bubble, and the 4 half-hour recaps on MTV that we'll be talking about later. Fans were also encouraged to go to the pier and showcase their artwork for potential screen time, and to go online to the website where there was a custom video player, exclusive content, post messages for the band, and to vote on polls. Cartel entered the bubble on May 24th, 2007, where they would spend the next 20 days creating their self-titled record. Except, were they really creating a record? In Where Are Your Boys Tonight, there's a specific chapter dedicated to Band in the Bubble. Throughout the entirety of Where Are Your Boys Tonight, there is light mentions of how bands viewed corporate America and what classified bands into sellout territory. However, this chapter really divulges into this idea. From what I've gathered, this era of the scene was a transitional period, both in the type of music that was being made and what was becoming more mainstream and acceptable. Additionally, as to how music was being played, moving from CDs to Napster to MySpace being really, really popular and showcasing bands more accessibly. Additionally, the beginnings of YouTube. The lead vocalist of Cartel, Will Pugh, says, "Through the label, we found out that Dr. Pepper was sponsoring it. We didn't think that soft drinks were sponsoring stuff was anything strange. You've got people with Red Bull and Monster sponsorships." They say that they asked MTV for $1 million, and MTV turned down their offer, saying, quote, "When you tour in the fall after being on an MTV show, you're probably going to sell 3 times as many tickets." It is also revealed that it is impossible for a band to write and record an album in 20 days, which is shocking. Are we shocked by this? Are you shocked by this? I'm shocked by this. Joseph goes on to mention the whole record was pretty much recorded before we went inside. The only thing that we did was a couple of vocals, some drums that weren't tracked, and a guitar solo that was written in the bubble. So what did the show look like? Episode 1 of Band in a Bubble starts, in my opinion, with the most traditional, stereotypical 2000s staging. A man named Blair, because of course, and he is standing on a stage in front of a large crowd of screaming women and introduces us to this crazy concept. The huge draw of this show is that they have to do this crazy thing, which is live in a glass bubble, and the hard part is they're living in a glass bubble. It's really, really interesting to me that nobody thought that these 5 guys who could tour together could live in a bubble together. It's just really interesting. Another thing that I find very interesting about this show is that the band is acting like if they don't finish this record in the bubble, their fans will kill them. It clearly leveled up for reality TV for the average MTV viewer, but even their record label is like, if you guys don't finish this record, the fans are gonna kill you. What the fuck? They also mention the totally tripped out recording studio, which I think is awesome. After the intro, if you can hear it over all of the screaming, Blair gives us more details about Band in a Bubble and how they're taking rock band Cartel and not letting them out. Then he introduces us to Susie, who is in the thick of it, who you can't hear. He's like, let's check in with Susie. Blair also has to add in that Susie looks lovely this evening.
And might I add, you look lovely this evening. We're gonna check that.
Okay. In my notes, I have, this is genuinely so visually overstimulating. We get individuals with band members, and while they're talking, fun facts come up on screen, like a blister count, favorite hobbies, and porn name. I think this is supposed to be like, haha, rock stars are so silly, and they're just like us, and yeah, they're 23, but they're just boys, and yeah, they're boys, but they're hot. And in case you were wondering, these are the fun facts that we learn. Let's introduce you to Will. He once got in a bloody fight with a guitar, and his porn star name is John Huge, which isn't even good. Kevin, blister record, 50. Favorite hobby, being naked. What? Joseph, aka the Mexicutioner. That's not even a fun fact. His other fun fact, though, he once went 2 weeks without a shower. Nick, almost served in Iraq. likes to play in the dirt. Two very fun facts. Two really fun facts. I forgot that this is like post 9/11. Almost served in Iraq is appealing to the general masses of the people, like the punk bands and the emo bands. Jeff has 20 tats, including one of himself. In high school, he lettered in science. What does that mean? The other thing that MTV wants to set up is that Jeff is a newer member because their other bass player quit the band because there has to be drama amongst the band that has been active since 2003 because clearly they don't have their shit together and they haven't toured together and they haven't made 2 records together, whatever. Susie asks the fans what they're interested in. And in 2000s fashion, these fans are horny.
So what do you think the life is going to be like in the bubble?
Well, I just really want to know what 5 horn dogs are going to do when they're lonely late at night in that bubble.
Yeah, that's a good question.
These fans want some, and Susie is tired.
Yeah, that's a good question.
We cut back to a scene with the band, and the big pressure is that the big label man is telling them that they're fucked if they don't come up with this record. It's so television. It's so, 2000s reality. I'm Mr. Moneyman, and if you don't give me my money, you're gonna be swimming with the fishes, you know? Susie speaks again, I think. Also, might I add that I saw a picture of her hair and Susie. They're acting as if being in this bubble isn't really, similar to touring. They can't go outside. And yeah, it is, they're stuck in the same space. But also, come on. I also want to take a quick minute to shout out their moms, because their moms are in this show, 3 times. And every single time that they show up, it's kind of iconic. Because they're kind of doing everything for this band. They're like, do you have your laundry? Is your laundry done? We're gonna bring you a home-cooked meal. I love moms. When the band arrives to the bubble, to the same screaming crowd that will not shut the fuck up, how long were these people out here? If you were a person who hung out during the first or the last night of Band in a Bubble, please, in the comments, please tell me what your experience was and how long you were out there, if you can remember, because how long were you guys screaming? Yeah, the band steps out of the van and they look as comfortable as you can stepping out of a van into a screaming crowd of people. We learn in Where Are Your Boys Tonight that when they step out of the van, not only is it the first time that they're seeing the bubble, it's also the first time that they found out that KFC and Walmart were sponsors. Joseph Pepper says, once we signed on, there was stuff in the contract that said MTV could change anything and we'd still have to agree. That's when they started getting all the other sponsors. Will says, the night we drove in, we saw the signage outside the bubble for the first time. It was Dr. Pepper and these other brands I guess you could call sub-sponsors. We didn't know KFC was a sponsor. We didn't know Taco Bell was a sponsor. We didn't know Walmart was a sponsor. Too late. Before they enter the bubble, there's a quick Q&A that you can't hear because their mics just aren't on. And in Where Are Your Boys, Joseph talks about this interview saying you can kind of see us looking at each other, smirking and laughing oh, what are we doing? However, also these questions are literally just, are you scared? You look scared. Are you scared? Are you ready? And then Blair is and turn over here and let's look at what you guys said about being in the bubble. And then it's clips of the band being God, I wish I could have sex.
Camera in the shower might be the weirdest part, but I can't imagine if all of America knows how large my testicles are.
Morning wood. That could suck. For America. And me. If everyone's disappointed, which they won't be.
But something that I found very interesting watching this first bit is that there's this part where Blair is what's your biggest fear? And Kevin can't hear him. So Will has to explain it to him. Why don't we get the crowd to shut the fuck up? And then Blair is oh, okay, you don't want to talk about it. No.
Well, you don't want to talk about it right now. I understand a lot of people here. And
in the video that I watched, the person included the ads from the original airing of the show on this YouTube video, and so there's a VCast ad with clothes off playing in the background. It's really funny because it's they're edging us with being able to get into this bubble, because after the ad break we get more people on the street being they're crazy, I hope we see them naked, I wouldn't be able to live in a bubble for 20 days, I hope they have Playboy, I hope we get to see them naked. I feel we've come a really long way, but also not far at all. since 2007. The fans then get to give them some not staged regular gifts, like 20 pairs of, quote, sexy underwear, some air fresheners to wear around their necks, and the only man that we see, like, mentioned, talked to at all in this entire thing brings a fucking plunger. I am tired. They then learn that once they enter the bubble, they will have 3 days to write and record a song that will premiere on TRL's New Music Week, and then they walk down the stairs to get into this bubble, and as they walk down the stairs, Will is rushed by, like, 3 girls. It's really funny. In the last 2 minutes of the episode, the band is going through the gifts they collected and exploring the house. And then Susie, I think, tells us where to watch. Additionally, if you bought bottles of Dr. Pepper, inside the cap there would be a code to let you go online and watch. Outside of the show, there are some other notable things that the band says in We're Your Boys Tonight that are just general, like you'll see it through the rest of the show. They had to drink everything out of Dr. Pepper cups. Like every drink that they had, non-alcoholic, alcoholic, they had to drink in these 20-ounce Dr. Pepper cups. They also say that on the first day, they went around the bubble to find the camera's blind spots, drawing lines on the wall so that they could smoke weed and not be seen on camera. Also, apparently MTV showed them this episode because it aired while they were in the bubble, and they got really upset that the original idea of the show wasn't what was happening. And then MTV was like, we don't want you watching the rest of the show. Quoted on Thrillist, it says, the guys were invited to watch the clip and soon became aware of how their words could be edited and spliced together. Quote, I guess when Kevin said how he felt about the song, the reality is not everybody's gonna like every part of it, became, we don't like any part of this record. Pew recalls, we were really mad. Then they were like, we don't want you guys watching the episodes. I took a couple days off from filming, and from my shirt, the A in ask fell off, which is really funny to me because Cartel. Episode 2 opens with a quick montage of the band hanging out in the bubble, having fun and doing a light recording, and also a quick recap. We are reminded that Spankin' New Music Week is this week, and they had to finish a song for TRL in 3 days. They say the first night in the bubble was pretty alright, and then it cuts to them exploring, and we learn that there's a camera in the fucking shower. Girl. The way that they are able to talk to fans who come up to the bubble is through this drive-through bank teller type mic situation, and they filmed this girl going, just go write a song right now.
Why don't you guys just go write a song right now? Go write a song!
We probably will later. We gotta get used to our environment.
Because it's that easy. And also, like, every chance that they get, they show a shower cam. Like, it's a lot. People just keep coming up to the bubble and, like, bringing them KFC and bras. Their manager comes in and is kind of like a dad talking to his kids. It's like a really hard watch. The band, they have these shots of the band like looking like really like despondent, like they want him to leave, which is really funny. And after a commercial break, there's an awesome graphic that says 0 songs, 19 days. I think this is the only time that we really see this graphic. After the commercial break, Will is writing lyrics and the rest of the band is golfing indoors, breaking glass, and there's shots of Will just like looking pissed. And like obviously it's clearly spliced in and edited from a different time. Like they just wanted it to look like there was drama amongst the band. The big thing that happens on the second day is that Nick needs to call a doctor because his uvula is like swollen as fuck. And so concerning music plays as Dr. Ronald Primus walks in. General consensus from Ronald is that Nick is sick and very contagious. And Nick is like, oh, I coughed in everybody's faces today. What?
Yeah, I coughed in your face this morning.
Yeah, you coughed in my face.
In your face too.
And then after that, they broadcast a phone call of Kevin and his girlfriend. And you know, I'm not going to comment on people's relationships because I honestly do not give a fuck. But he's like, I'm getting used to being locked in this bubble. And she's like, well, me too. What the fuck? And he goes, well, we're going to start recording, so I gotta go. And she goes, well, I'll watch. Okay. MTV is really trying to build some drama between Will and Kevin. Like, they're really focusing on this. Kevin has been deemed the class clown and is always on that bank teller mic. But, like, low-key, I can't even fault him because knowing how fans were in the 2000s, somebody had to be on that mic entertaining these bitches. Like, if they were in there recording doing nothing and these women were coming up, or even these men were coming up to the mic and being like, hey guys, like what's up, like why aren't you paying attention to me, then they would have gone onto the message boards and been like, Cartel wasn't paying attention to me while they were locked in a bubble, like what the fuck did they even have to do in there? And then if they went to talk to them while they were in the bubble, they would have been like, go write some songs, why are you talking to me? So really there was no way to win. They're having a regular band conversation, in my opinion, and MTV is showing this as if they are having the biggest disagreement. But also, I like can't imagine being in a bubble and trying to not spill that you've already written most of the record, and also not have legitimate conversations about the record. In an article from 2023 on consequence.net, Will says, there was one episode where we were just talking about the sequencing of the record, what order songs are going to come in. We were trying to figure out the first 3 or 4 to get the people into it, that sort of thing. And the drummer, Kevin, was like, I really don't like that song to be the 3rd or 4th song. And then that turned into an edit of, listen, I don't like any of these songs. They put in a shot of me. I was playing an acoustic guitar and I remember the moment because one of them made a shitty joke and I looked over and gave them the psh look. They had a shot of that and they put it in right after Kevin. So it was from 2 different days. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's what they're doing. Okay, well, you know, like, fair enough. That was the thing for us. We didn't care. The album was going to be the album as long as nobody had any sort of editorial privilege over that and nobody made us seem like, you know, racist misogynists. The other thing that happens in this episode is that Jeff turns the cameras around to retaliate, so production cuts their access to the internet. Tony Asher comes in to do a bit of supervising and helping out. They're working on the song The Fortunate, and from a fan perspective, I can't imagine this being too interesting, but watching these guys go back and forth about the word cower is really fun to me, and like having Will explain why he doesn't want to use that word or why he's hesitant to use that word was really interesting for me. But I can't imagine the average 2007 viewer being like, oh my god, the word cower, wow. They play the song Lose It on TRL for Spankin' New Music Week, and their A&R comes in wearing a fucking suit. They kind of talk about it in Where Are Your Boys, saying, our A&R Peter Malkin came on the show saying something like, we need sonic weapons or whatever it was about singles. That dude I've never seen wear a suit one solitary time in my life, and he walks into the bubble wearing a suit. Like, Peter, they got to you, man. There's a clip of the performance from TRL, and then the episode ends with the band playing with Nerf guns and their manager checking in on them. Episode 3 opens with Kevin jumping off of the loft onto all of the mattresses and the band like losing their minds because there's nothing crazy left to do. On day 6, they get some fish from the fans. Why would you do that? That's awful. Like, the fish die, like, immediately. They keep talking about how if the glass breaks, they're running out and leaving. Which, like, genuinely is crazy shit because, spoiler alert, the glass does break one day. But, like, day 6, they're talking about this. And also, the bubble is supposed to be, like, wind, hurricane, tornado, tsunami resistant. There's also a hardcore foot shot of Kevin while they talk about how dirty they and the bubble are. Oh, and then another shot of somebody throwing up. This time, it's Nick. Also, 2 fish have died already. There were 5 fish in this fucking bowl.
I got 2 men down. I killed the fish.
It's like the tiniest little bowl, too. To be honest, like, this shot of them getting rid of the fish was really funny.
Sorry, little buddies. Nick killed you.
What if they just started swimming right now? No, they're definitely dead.
You ready?
I laughed out loud. I LOL'd. Ugh. Nick's mom calls and says she was trying to look for him through the camera on his bed, but he wasn't there. I can't imagine the psychological damage that this series, that these 20 days gave to these 5 men. Nick says that he wishes that she was there, and then we cut back to the band recording vocals for The Fortunate, which they are recording at 1 a.m. Kevin says he hates the song, and it cuts to a shot of Will over the balcony looking put off, like what we talked about earlier. On day 9, the band is awoken with a personal trainer coming in and waking the band up. This was done because there wasn't enough drama going on in the bubble, and MTV was afraid that the audiences would be bored. In Where Are Your Boys, Will says they had some TV fitness ladies showing up at 7 in the morning and making us do jumping jacks after we'd been drinking all night. There are so many shots in this show of these guys throwing up. And then there's some shots of Will recording vocals for piano, one of which is through a phone, which was cool. And then we cut to the guys being like, we need to kiss these girls because all of the women are hot, obviously. While they're talking to these hot women, one of them, gives the guys, some porn magazines, I think. And I don't even really know how to describe this next part because one of the guys goes into the bathroom after being like, we have the worst porn ever. And then it's a shot of fireworks. Where's Susie? Where's Susie when you need her? After that, Nick carries a blow-up doll upstairs while Joseph says that he definitely misses his girlfriend. In Where Are Your Boys, Matt Rabano says, a girl I was dating at the time was friends with a girl who was dating one of the Cartel dudes. She was like, so-and-so wants us to go over and visit, and then I think we can be on the show. And I was like, oh, that feels a bit gross. No, I don't really want to do that. So I think that we have to believe that this girl is Brittany. Brittany comes to the bubble to visit her boyfriend. She brings a dog, and they chill for the afternoon. And then they have a not set up at all, not planned, totally organic conversation about how the quick turnaround is on the album, and how it comes out on July 24th, and it'll be released in stores. CD. In the stores. And you can get it on when? July 24th. Brittany stays the night in the bubble, which is absurd. And then she says that she's going to sleep on the couch because she doesn't want a video of her and Kevin online together. And he goes, quote, "You're 22, it doesn't matter." And she replies, quote, "Yeah, my dad won't disown me." And then they go to an area where there aren't cameras to have a conversation, and the like handheld camera guys follow them to watch their conversation. And I'm not one to comment on anybody's relationships, but wow. After a commercial break, we find out that she slept on the couch and he slept on the floor next to her. He slept on the fucking floor. It looks very sweet. Anyway, after that, she leaves and we get a really hilarious shot of her walking away from the bubble, where you can see the bubble in the back, and a Dr. Pepper inflatable on the right. Like, she has to walk all the way off of the pier. She walks away from the bubble where the guys originally drove in. And it's early, and it's just a long shot of her walking. This is funny as fuck. After this, Doug from Epic Records comes down to approve the record. He gives a note about the last line of the song, and Will shuts it down. The manager says that the song needs to pop a little more, and Will says that he gets upset when a song gets negative feedback like that. And the show tries to set up this separation between the band and their management, which opens up a couple conversations that are currently being had that I think about all the time. Specifically, do labels really matter? Should artists be making art for themselves or to appease their management who aren't the face of these songs? In my personal opinion, labels do not fucking matter. Do your own shit. In my other personal opinion, artists should be making art for themselves, making the art that they want to make, and not to appease the label overlords, because the label is not making the art. They are not the artist. They are not the person with the vision. They are literally there to fucking put it out and support the artist's vision. I don't give a fuck that you need to make money, bitch. Your artists aren't making any fucking money. On day 13, the moms come in with homemade meals, clean, and hang out for a bit, because obviously the women have to do the cooking and the cleaning. Also, why does Kevin's mom say that she hasn't seen him in the shower cam? The band plays the songs for their moms, and obviously they have nothing but good things to say, and then the episode ends with tragedy. Remember how in the first episode, Blair said that the bubble could withstand anything? Joseph notices that one of the windows is moving during the rain, and then the glass breaks, and the band runs out of the bubble, and they're running around, and they are goofing and gaffing. Production follows them around while Jeff's mom keeps going, "Get inside! Get back inside!" Like she's talking to a child. The final episode, we jump to day 20, and we get a live feed with Blair again. Thank God that we saw him. I know that you were missing him. I know I was personally missing him. And this time, even with the crowd there, we can hear Blair. This is such an awesome time. We also see the band standing ominously in this large window that has been replaced. On day 20, we get a recap of the last 7 days that focuses heavily on the drama amongst the band and how they only have so much time to make this album. We jump back to day 13 when the window breaks and how their mothers were begging them to come back inside. Additionally, they talk about how their equipment is covered in glass. After their moms leave, they clean up the glass, and on day 14, the builders install a new window. There's a couple shots of people outside playing some instruments, and it seems like these people have name tags on. I'm very curious to know if this was a tour group that happened to stumble upon the bubble, or if this lets us into the process of how fans were able to access the bubble in real life. Like, the girlfriend had to walk that long stretch all by herself, so did fans have to check in to be let down the strip? Was the strip purely for the band and their select guests, and the fan had to enter by the blow-up Dr. Pepper thing? Also, was being by the bubble a lottery situation? Anyway, this guy gets let into the bubble because he is awesome, and it actually looks like his name tag says number 4, so maybe it was like a contest to see who gets to come in. I don't know. The following day, the Harlem Boys and Girls Alumni Choir come in to record on one of the songs. Day 15, producers Kenneth and Jack come in to leave chicken feet, I think, around the bubble. On the phone with Wyclef, they have a very not scripted, not produced conversation about how he's been watching Cartel on the net, and how he wants to have crazy guitar sounds on his song. Day 16, they have a bunch of farm animals wake up the band, and this is low-key fucking hilarious because they just have shots of the band just looking at this rooster, and it's silent, and I love it so much. Day 16, there's also a conversation between Will and his girlfriend at the time about how he's tired of the people outside of the bubble, which I fear could have been misinterpreted at the time as him being ungrateful, or however the media wanted to twist it, but also it's been 2 weeks of them living in this space, being watched 24/7, and it makes the most amount of sense why he's voicing his frustration. Like, I can't blame him. If the rest of the band was also like, I'm tired of these people being outside and watching me all the time, I'd be like, yeah, you're right for that. When we come back from commercial, Wyclef Jean comes into the bubble to do a remix of Wasted. They go into the studio, quote, his favorite place in the world.
Show me what a studio, my favorite place in the world. Ready?
This process was really cool to watch. His direction was really, really interesting to listen to. And I do like his version of Wasted. In episode 4, we finally get to see some shots of them recording stuff and some lines of drama. Day 19, the head of Sony Publishing comes in to listen to the record, and he whispers into the ear of their manager and then is like, wow, it's good.
That's great.
He leaves with a Dr. Pepper, and that's that. They also talk about how when they leave the bubble, they're going to need to, like, quote, wean off of each other since they've been around each other so much, which I think is funny. On day 20, the manager is back to reminding them how much is at stake. And finally, they get to leave the bubble to the sound of glass breaking, which is fake. Glass doesn't break with that sound. And in Where Are Your Boys, they mentioned that they used the beginning of, I think, a David Bowie song to make it sound like the glass was breaking. And then they begin to play a song, which you can't hear, because why would you be able to hear that? But at least you could hear Blair. And the episode ends with them playing Lose It as credits scroll by. I found a website that cataloged a ton of stuff Cartel did or said during this time. It seems to be an alternative music review website of sorts covering bands from Motion City Soundtrack and Against Me all the way to Yellow Card, Pop Goes Punk, and obviously Cartel. It spans from about 2002, I think, to around 2011, 2012. I want to do more research on this website because this website looks awesome. And I miss when there were websites like this. When can we bring this back? How can we bring this back? Anyway, on this website, I found a cataloged letter from April of 2007 where Will responded to a note from Lefsetz about Band in a Bubble. Lefsetz seems to be a bigger blogger who has been around since the literal dawn of time. Like, he gives Perez Hilton vibes. And while I don't want to bring too much attention to this shit, his entry from 2007 in April about Cartel says, quote, music comes from inspiration, not marketing plans. Whoever convinced the act to be involved in this stunt, whether it be their manager or Charlie Walk or somebody else, should be exiled from the business immediately, made to live in said biosphere with the band, sans Blackberry, sans dinners at Peter Luger's, sans any of the creature comforts of modern society. And here's a revolutionary idea for you. Make it about the music first. Will replies saying, I just want you to hear what the artist is thinking and not what the label, manager, ad agency, or anyone else has to say about this. First off, let's get all the things we agree on out of the way. Of course, this is a marketing ploy, and a huge one at that. There's not one person who reads about this, fan or not, that isn't going to see this as a stunt. Second, if I were not the subject of the matter, I would wholeheartedly agree that whatever band was doing this was being suckered in and hoodwinked and hijacked, or whatever phrase we can think of. Lastly, the industry nowadays should be about the music and nothing else. The artist should feel that his or her talent and expression of which should be the only thing that matters and nothing more. With all that, I agree. Later on, he says, see, we only have one record. We're about to record our second. People don't really know us from any other band on the radio or MTV. All that is about to change. This bubble shit is stirring up all kinds of dust around the music world. It's something people find ridiculous. People think we're crazy, sellouts, whores, and everything else negative they can think of. Some people think of it as cool. The industry is crumbling. People are losing their jobs. Less established bands are being dropped from major labels every day, even ones that sold pretty decently but didn't get the break everyone was looking for. We're looking at this as our next make or break opportunity. If this bubble thing never happened, we would release our next record to our 200,000 or so fans with a single to radio that would be negligibly pushed, and we would just sit back and see what happens with our career as our tour schedule continued. It might have broke and we could be sitting on cloud 9 by the end of the year, and everyone is happy with no cred lost or harm done. That's best case scenario. What if it flopped in the label's eyes and only sold 300,000 or so? That's not good enough for these people. We'd be shitting ourselves still calling it awesome and enjoying the modest loot we made on the road. This marketing scheme shows the world that we are a real band with real inspiration and real songs, not some American Idol winner or label lottery contestant. People get to see us do what we do under intense pressure and scrutiny and still hit a fucking grand slam, while in the meantime, people in your position are hating like there's no tomorrow on a band that they know little to nothing about. Obviously, some of these things changed because they didn't realize that MTV was just going to do like a fuck around and find out kind of thing where, you know, they were bringing in farm animals and making them drink and having personal trainers. This is a beforehand and everything. In 2008, though, an article was published on the Orange County Register entitled "Cartel Tries to Escape from the Band in a Bubble Backlash." In this article, Will is quoted to say, "I still feel like a large majority of people didn't understand it. I still don't fully understand it. The way that it got promoted and the way that it actually was were two very different things." Following the album's release, which was pushed back from July 24th to August 21st, Cartel, the self-titled record, debuted at number 20 on the Billboard 200 and sold over 28,000 copies in its first week. There was no radio play at all from this record, and Epic didn't seem to be pushing it. After the record didn't do well, the band was slated to go on a large tour. In Where Are Your Boys, they mentioned that they were told that because they were on MTV, they were going to sell out the whole tour. And then they didn't really sell out any dates because the rooms were too large. It seems, though, that they were a band that was playing smaller rooms, playing 2,000 cap rooms, 1,000 cap rooms, and were being put into rooms that were 4,000 cap. And so they were selling the same amount of tickets that they had sold, but because they were in these huge rooms, nothing was being sold out, which looked like a failure to the label and to MTV because they were selling only 50% of the tickets. After this record cycle, they were dropped by Epic Records. In doing research for this video, I came across the Code and Theory website, the people who made the Band in a Bubble site. This is what the website would have looked like during those 20 days. We can see where the 23 cameras were placed, along places like the KFC kitchen, front jam, and the 2 shower cams. In the video on the website, the conversation they're having is about where the shower camera cuts off. The website also included the band blog, video and audio clips, photos, news updates, and bubble blueprints, along with how to get to the bubble and a list of events going on during the time that the bubble was happening. So why does nobody talk about this show? There's a lot to say about the show, but the biggest thing that needs to be gotten out of the way is that the traditional sophomore slump idea that consumes bands and the general way that people have consumed music or media. While there has been an obvious shift in the last 20 years with the way that the general public has consumed music, even within the last 5 years, there has been a larger shift. Celebrities and musicians are so readily available online, and the fan-artist dynamic has shifted to where the fan feels like they are owed something from these artists just because they listen to the music. Very few people sit down to listen to full-length albums, and so fewer artists are putting out full-length records, opting for EPs instead. There's also something to be said for the idea of eras. Everything has to be an era now. A record cycle has to have these huge, impactful moments. They have to have a draw, and they have to have mystery and fun surrounding it, while also drawing in a larger audience and trying to pull in new listeners. There's also this idea that so many people currently think that you either have a big record or you've sold out and you haven't succeeded since 2004, which is why so many bands are doing reunion tours. I could make a full fucking video about reunion tours and re-releasing albums and diamond editions of albums and all that shit. In my opinion, the other reason this show in particular failed is because they went with Cartel. I love Cartel. I think that this album is a really good album. I think Cartel is a really good band, but if MTV had gone with a band that was more established, possibly on their 3rd or 4th record, maybe there would have been room for more organic drama. But clearly, These producers did not go through the whole, they've toured before, they've been on buses and vans together, they know more about each other than they probably want to. The producers did not think this through whatsoever. They weren't going to get the organic drama that they wanted because this was a solid band. They had done this with fucking Fall Out Boy in 2008 when they were going through it. You know, you would have had the drama. This is a band that's putting out their second record. They want to take the risk. They want to do it. That's my full opinion on that. People love to claim when a band has peaked or when they sell out. Fall Out Boy fans will say that their best record is their first, and then after that they fell off. What I find so interesting is that Cartel was supposed to be the next Fall Out Boy, while Fall Out Boy were still actively rising. There was no telling where these bands were going to go next. The other thing that I have a very big problem with, specifically in the alternative scene, is when a band falls off. You're saying that Fall Out Boy fell off after Take This to Your Grave. Band sounds evolve over time. They mature, they change, they experiment. Commercial success changes amongst bands, obviously. Commercial success differs. A band's art is ever changing with the band. Saying that they peaked at a certain point in time before they even got to fully understand their sound is really shitty. The only other example that I can think of is Waterparks. Waterparks in 2016 with Double Dare is not Waterparks in 2021. There's a huge shift there. And while some elements remain the same, they continued to get better between Double Dare and Greatest Hits. However, the idea of selling out is a very big point of conversation amongst alternative scenes. What quantifies selling out, who does it, and when? There are multiple books written about this idea of being a sellout. While I could see many fans being turned off by Band in a Bubble because it was too commercial, while being both sponsored by Dr. Pepper and KFC, having a smaller band get this huge MTV show all to themselves would be a huge red flag to a lot of MySpace users or Warped Tour goers. Norman Brannon, formerly of Texas Is the Reason, says, but the fact that they were still on a major label and this was just strictly a marketing gimmick on some level made me sad. Because I actually like that record. I think there are good songs on it. But at the time, it was just going to be tarnished as the Dr. Pepper Band in a Bubble record. From an article on consequence.net entitled How Corporations Trap the MySpace Scene in a Bubble, I found this opinion. Band in a Bubble felt forced and contrived, even by the standards of reality television, without providing the juicy drama that makes viewers tune in anyway, while the association didn't do much for the band's sales or street cred. I actually really like this record. Is it my favorite Cartel record? Absolutely not. But the songs are strong and they hold true to what the band proclaimed themselves to be. Trying to move away from a very successful first record a year and a half after its release is a very difficult task, and the fact that they had to do it so publicly is a feat in and of themselves. Clearly they were trying to move away from this pop punk teen boy band vibe that Chroma kind of encapsulates. So they were trying to go with a mature sound, which I appreciate and think is a good direction for them to have gone in. Aside from a few articles here and there, and Where Are Your Boys, I have not seen the members of Cartel speak too much about Band in a Bubble. Maybe because of a contract with MTV, maybe because who the fuck wants to revisit this? However, on August 11th, 2025, Will did a Reddit AMA for Warped Tour, and one person asked about Band in a Bubble. This person asked, I haven't seen anyone ask about being in the NYC bubble yet. Can you tell us what that was like? I mean, being filmed 24/7 obviously must have been jarring, but anything stood out to you positively and or negatively? Do you still drink Dr. Pepper? And Will replied, I think we need to do a longer form explanation of all that. Would be so much fun to spill the tea. Will, I have a couple questions. This is my formal announcement. I would like to talk to you about Band in a Bubble. I have questions. You will never see me making a fucking Reddit account though to ask these. So I'm asking the void in hopes that literally anybody from Cartel is watching. Hello. Hi. Thanks for watching this long, or skipping to here. Nice to meet you. Here are my questions. What were the immediate repercussions following the exit of the bubble? Was there a lingering feeling of being watched or the usage of phrases or speaking in code that you hadn't dropped? Did the dynamic amongst fans shift after being viciously sexualized on camera? Also, how bad was it being viciously sexualized on camera? Do you think that there are still lingering effects almost 20 years later, both behind the scenes with management, publicists, and also being recognized as the band in the bubble? How many cameramen were around, and what was their filming schedule like? We know that people were asked to come to the bubble as a draw for viewers and to make it difficult for you guys, but did you ask for your moms to come to the bubble, or was it a decision made by MTV? How often were you communicating with production, and what was that like? And number 7, I know that my shirt is fucked right now, but do you like my shirt? You don't have to answer that one if you don't like it, okay? That is all of my questions and a full recap of Bandit in a Bubble. I wanted to make a video essay like this for so long, and I'm so excited that I finally decided to do it with something that I really, really enjoy. If you want me to discuss more weird, niche, alternative scene happenings, things, please let me know. I would love to do some research on your guys' favorite things and learn more useless knowledge from the 2000s. If you also just want to hear me talk about my opinions about everything, just let me know. I have some opinions that I could share. And if you want to listen to my music, it is not as good as Cartel's, but it is linked in the description along with the full episodes of Band in a Bubble. If I missed anything, if I got anybody's names wrong, if I really, really, really fucked this up, let me know. Be mad at me in the comments, or don't be mad at me, okay? Because I am just a boy who is doing this for fun, okay? Thank you so much. I will see you guys in the next one. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below anything else that you want to see, and I will see you soon. Bye.